Hello, Gene Schwimmer here. Welcome to today's vlog. Just a couple of small items and on to the main subject for today. This is another one of these days when I get to toot my horn a little bit because I made well, it wasn't a prediction, it was a possibility. I stated a possibility and it looks like an authority agrees with me. I had said in an earlier vlog that I saw the possibility that, well, I said two things. I said that if the mob in Minneapolis and around the country, the Black Lives Matter, Antifa mob, if they didn't get the verdict that they wanted in the Chauvin trial, that they would riot. But I also speculated that it was possible that even if they got the verdict that they did want, that they would still riot. Here's a headline. A former Minneapolis police officer said he quit days before the Derek Chauvin trial because he thinks protesters will burn the city down no matter the case's outcome. A former Minneapolis police officer who quit the department days before the start of Derek Chauvin's trial said he did so fearing there would be riots in the city no matter what the outcome. The officer, a former sergeant, spoke on the condition that he not be named, but his identity is known to Insider. That's the name of the website that's reporting this story. The former officer said that he was up for retirement soon and worried about his safety and what he predicts will be, quote, riots and more destruction, unquote, when the jury reaches a verdict, which could happen this month. Chauvin's trial in Minneapolis began March 29. Quote, if Minnesota had the death penalty and Chauvin got it, people in Minneapolis are still going to riot, unquote, the officer said. Quote, they're still going to burn the city down, unquote. I have to agree. Well, I don't 100% agree. He's making a prediction. I'm stating a possibility, but I can see it happening because you're talking about a mob, and mobs do not reason. As I said in that earlier vlog, they could burn the whole city down just to celebrate. It makes no sense in any case, whichever way the verdict goes, even after the George Floyd death, to burn the city down, to burn down all these minority businesses and small businesses and drive people away and defund the police and have the increase in crime that results. None of that makes any sense. So I don't discount the possibility of the mob acting unreasonably. And as this officer said, well, he's actually predicting that the mob will riot no matter what happens. So I guess that's not such a happy subject to start with, but that's the subject I'm starting with. Now, this second item, it's a little smaller, but it's a little happier. It has to do with the House. I don't know if you've been paying attention to what's been happening in the House of Representatives, Washington, but Alcee Hastings, he is he was a Democratic senator. He died recently, and a new House member, I don't remember her name, but a Republican member was just sworn in. What matters is that the House already had a very small majority. The Democrats had a very small majority. They pretty much needed every Democrat to vote with them on everything because they could not afford to lose very many votes. Well, it just got worse now because the one Democrat died and then a Republican was just sworn in. They are down to 218 to 212 representative majority. What does that mean? That means that the most number of, or the highest number of Democrats that Nancy Pelosi could afford to lose in any vote is 2. If she loses 3 Democratic votes, then the vote will be tied in the House, at least until Hastings is replaced, which probably would not happen until 2022, when I would predict that I'm pretty confident that the Republicans, just from redistricting alone, will retake the House. So they are in a bigger bind than they were before. Nancy Pelosi can only afford to lose 2 Democratic votes, and we have all these moderate representatives. Well, this is a chance for them to prove how moderate they are and not allow their arms to be twisted out of joint by Pelosi, because she will be twisting arms like crazy, I predict. And you have to remember the Senate, there is a 50-50 split, and we have two senators, Sinema and Manchin. Sinema has not made a statement recently, but Joe Manchin published an editorial, an op-ed piece in the Washington Post, and he just restated as definitively as anybody could that he will not vote under any circumstances to end the filibuster. That's good news for conservatives. And full disclosure, I'm a conservative, so you have to always consider what I say in that light, that I'm a conservative. So when I say good news, I mean good news for conservatives. Obviously, if you're a Democrat, this is not good news. And who knows what could happen? God, what would happen if there were suddenly one fewer Democrat in the Senate? Boy, would that really throw a monkey wrench into the Democrats' works. Anyways, on to the main subject for today. I've been talking about immigration or unlawful aliens streaming into the country through the porous border that we have under Biden and the ending. Well, I'm actually going to give you a list here. That's what this subject is about today. The many ways, if you want to know how has Joe Biden in just 3 months screwed up immigration, let's count the ways. This comes from Byron York, writing, and he has a column called the Daily Memo. I'm on his email list, so I get this every day. But he provides a handy list that, well, here it is, the headline, quote, "Chaos and Disorder," unquote, at the border, by Byron York. The Republicans pointed to several things Biden has done to create the current crisis. Here we go. First, he did away with President Donald Trump's Remain in Mexico policy, which required asylum seekers to stay in Mexico, not in the United States, while their asylum claims were adjudicated. And just a little aside, step out for a moment. That made no sense. It made no sense to let these unlawful aliens into the country while their cases are being decided, because these are not refugees. They do not qualify as refugees. They've said flat out to any reporter who's interviewed them, and to, I believe, some senators too. They said flat out, we're here for jobs. Joe Biden invited us. These are not people fleeing persecution in their home countries because of their race, religion, political beliefs, so on and so forth. These are not refugees. There was no reason to let them into the country to decide their cases when arrangements had already been made for them to stay in Mexico, unless that's the plan, that Biden and the Democrats, well, I don't know about Biden. He's got dementia. He may have no idea what's going on, but he's totally controlled by the far left of his party. They want unlawful aliens to flood into the country and ideally one day grow up to vote for Democrats. That's one thing I think that they want. They would like these people to come into, well, to be transported to red states, such as, well, they're already coming into Texas. That's where the darn border is, where they're streaming in. But if you get enough of these people in Texas and they grow up to vote for Democrats, you could flip the state. You could flip Texas from red to blue, and then you could pretty much forget about Republicans ever winning a presidential election. That's one part of the plan, but another part of the plan could be, as somebody mentioned, you send them to a blue state, and if you're going to, this is something that's it's probably going to go to the Supreme Court, the census, whether you count unlawful aliens as part of the population for the census, because if you do that, you bring unlawful aliens into blue states and you increase the number of representatives they could have. Or looking at the way the situation is today, you reduce the number of seats they would lose as people are fleeing these misgoverned blue states and moving to the red states. Let's continue with the list. Second, Biden ended Trump's asylum agreements with the Northern Triangle countries, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, to steer would-buy asylum seekers from those nations into safe countries other than the U.S. Third, Biden gutted Trump's use of Title 42, the government's authority to expel most migrants for the purpose of controlling the spread of COVID. Biden did not throw Title 42 away altogether, but it is by some accounts now letting most would-be migrants stay rather than be turned away because of the pandemic. And I'll just step aside for a moment from this list again to note, as others have reported, these unlawful aliens are testing positive, some of them for coronavirus, and they're being released into the country, just released into the country. Who knows where they're going? Pretty much forget about them showing up for their court dates. But this is at the same time that we're all told to lock down, wear masks, that even if you get vaccinated, you still can't, live freely in this country. Meanwhile, though, we obviously want everybody to be cured of coronavirus. We want it to go away, or at least to be manageable. And at the same time, as the Biden administration and the disgusting Dr. Fauci, that's how I think of him, is telling people that we have to restrict ourselves, they are, on the other hand, allowing unlawful aliens who have COVID to go anywhere they want in the country. Again, that makes no sense. Fourth, Biden came into office promising to end all deportations for the first 100 days of his presidency. With very few exceptions, he has done just that. Remember the T-shirts, the unlawful aliens wearing T-shirts with a Biden let us in or whatever. I'll put a photo up so you can see what the logo is precisely. But he broadcast a message that all these people in these countries got, that for 100 days, if you get into this country, you can stay. And that is exactly what is happening. Fifth, and this, of course, is the big one, the obvious one, Biden stopped construction of the Trump border wall. And that completes the list. All of these moves opened the door to would-be illegal crossers and also sent the message to thousands of people in the Northern Triangle and elsewhere, come now and you can stay. The Republicans had gone down to the border to actually see what's happening, and they've actually, as you may know, have been blocked from taking photos, or they've managed to take some photos, but the Biden officials have tried, or the border officials under orders from Joe Biden has done everything they could to prevent the senators from seeing what is actually happening, and even more than that, from photographing what is happening, and even more than that, prevent reporters from seeing what's happening and reporting what is happening. They are just closing the whole thing off, or doing the best, because that's how bad it is. They know it is terrible, and they do not want the American people to see it. So a number of Republicans have gone down there anyways, and of course some of the Republicans are Republicans, and Democrats too. There's one, Quayler, he's a Texas Democrat, and he is up in arms about this too, not to mention the mayors, some of them Democrats, of these border towns. And I've actually seen an interview with one mayor. You could tell by his name, one by his name and another by his name and accent, that these are Hispanic or of Hispanic heritage, and they are up in arms about this too. I mentioned in a past vlog that I lived in Harlem for a number of years. I lived in New York for 40 years, moved to Tennessee a couple of years ago, but the last 10 years of living in New York, I lived in Harlem, and I met a Hispanic guy who was very just angry about these immigrants coming into the country, because he was legal. These people come in illegally and compete with other people for jobs, and a lot of these people are minorities. So he was angry too. So winding up the article, Byron's article, the Republicans ended their trip with an appeal to President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. Come to the border. Take an actual personal look at the situation your policies have created, and which I have just listed, or Byron York listed, I just shared with you. I would advise everybody, this is the advice I am taking, which is not to hold my breath waiting for either Biden or Harris to go to the border to see actually what is happening. They are not only preventing others from seeing what's going on, they don't want to see themselves because they know what's going on. And if they go down and they see what's going on, they might be, well, just human compassion, be motivated to do something about it. But as a political matter, they would be in a very tight bind because they could not, after seeing with their own eyes and hearing from border officers, the Border Patrol, telling them what is going on, I don't see how they could avoid doing something and admitting that they were wrong. That is a problem they have right now, I believe, actually, is trying to reverse their policies, reinstate the Trump policies without making it clear that that's what they are doing. They have a big mess, and because they have a big mess, we have a big mess. And remember this, because the election is coming up, and remember this especially in 2024, especially you people in Arizona who are being flooded with these immigrants. Remember, you voted for, well, yeah, I have to say, right, I'm required, or my vlog will be taken down, that it was a perfect election and everything is fine. Thumbs up if you like this video. Share it with anybody you think would also like it. Got any comments? Comment section below the video where you can put questions, suggestions for future topics. You could visit my music channel, my food channel, and I just debuted my hot dog channel. Just hot dog recipes. It's just starting now. I put only a couple, I think 2 or 3 up, but I'm going to be putting them up continuously. So I'm going to put a link to my hot dog channel. I hope you'll visit that too. I appreciate I would really appreciate your visiting my other channels, but I certainly appreciate the time you spend with me on this channel. I hope you'll spend more time. I would love to see all of you again. I look forward to seeing all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.